Welcome to the Founding Voices podcast, a series of conversations with humans who showed up before there was a map. I'm Perry, the founder of the Octopus Movement, and I believe nonlinear thinking is not just a way of creating possibilities, it's a way of being in the world. Each week, I speak with three founding members of our global human mycelium to explore who we are and why we think differently, and how they're shaping a future that cannot be built in straight lines. Well, let's meet today's guest. It's Tascha Just. So happy you're here. You don't work inside of systems, you redesign them. We will talk about systems immediately, right? After question number one. Tascha Just is a national certified school psychologist, speaker, and founder of SEL Academy. But that description is too small for what she actually does. Tascha. She didn't become an educator because she had all the answers. She became one because she saw that our systems were asking the wrong questions. Yeah, especially with children who think, feel, move, or process differently. Raised at the intersection of Scandinavian, African American, and Indigenous cultures, Tascha learned early how to move between worlds, whatever that may be. We need to talk about that. What does that mean? Anyway, she carries neuroscience and agent wisdom in the same breath. She works at the intersection of trauma informed practice, emotional intelligence, AI, integrated resilience tools, and youth led curriculum design. Her work is not about fixing children, it's about designing brave systems that actually work for them. Tasha believes emotional intelligence is a survival skill. She believes nonlinear thinkers are the future. Yay. And she believes that we need brave systems, not just brave individuals. Tasha Just, and she's just getting started. Tasha, welcome to the podcast. That
Hey.
was that was an easy one, the last one, right? Sorry for doing that.
That's okay. Bonjour. Hello.
Hello, hello. I'm so
Hello.
happy
It's
you're
nice to be
here.
here.
Good to have you with me. And question number one, and then we dive into Tasha and Brave Systems and everything. Describe the octopus in you. What is the Tasha octopus? How does it look like? What happens with your octopus?
Well, I will tell you in that uh, when I first found out that you were a real person and that the octopus movement was a real thing, I had I had for so long been thinking that it was just me in this world that was weird, and I would find people that would be um, eccentric in certain ways. But
Mhm.
then I found this whole group of us who are doing extraordinary things, and I I I did not believe that it could be real. I I I made the appointment with you, and I really was at about maybe a 30% chance that you were a person and that I was not being scammed. And
I
uh,
remember this so well. You were the first one ever in a Zoom conversation. The first thing you said, "Oh, you're real." That was so funny. I was like, "What the hell is this?" You're not AI. No.
it just seemed like you had to be AI because everything that I was looking for was being said, and there was no way that you could be inside my head and knowing what I needed. And it helped me realize that that's why I do what I do, because I am able to do that for other people as well. And the way that my brain works, I am able to not just empathize, but uh, really feel what other people are feeling and experience it in a way that sometimes can blend with my own reality. Um, the universe mirrors, and I find that the octopus in me has all these brains that are constantly feeling, and like so many of us that are nonlinear, we have senses that are working in different ways and telling us different things. And then we have programs coming, and we have to adapt quickly. And what I find interesting about that is the paradox is one of the symptoms that people say many of us have is that we don't adapt well. But really, if you get us in a crisis, whoo, that's when we are on, because we know that like it's an emergency. But if you get us in a illusion that is imitated fear and anxiety, then we are not functioning as well because it's not real.
We don't adjust well. Can we dive into that
Yeah.
immediately? Because this is fascinating. I understand what you're saying. Let's find the language here. Because I believe that the octopus in us is very adaptable. That's why we're nonlinear thinkers.
Yep.
We're very adaptable. But
The system.
from from a different point of view, right?
Hmm.
From for others, they would consider us not very adaptable. And you said system immediately. I think from a very linear system perspective, the nonlinear thinker is not very adaptable. How about that for a sentence? That is interesting, right? How do you see that? Can you describe how ridiculous that is?
Yeah, well, I've spent a lot of time thinking about it because the with the children that I have worked with, the most sensitive people, and not just emotionally, but in all of the dozens of senses that we have, the most sensitive are also the most honest. And they also register honesty and truth from others. And the reality is, we don't give a lot of it in a linear system. We we spend a lot of time uh, really faking each other out, and kids realize that, and they don't have the words for it yet, so they just have to figure out nuance without, but it's not even the nuance that the linear world talks about later on. It's very subtle.
Mhm.
And I don't, speaking of non-linear, what were we talking about? Adaptability. So um what
How is it? Let me help you. How is it that in from a perspective of a linear system, and the system is always linear, so from a perspective of a system, nonlinear thinkers can be categorized as being not very adaptable? It's funny. It's the same thing with multipotentiality, which I find
yeah,
that word also interesting. That a specialist will say to a multipotentialite, "You don't know how to focus." But it's the same thing, and I'm thinking that's easy for you to say. You only have one thing to focus on. We have 10 things to focus on, and we're pretty damn fucking good at all the 10 things. So who is better in focusing, right? We focus on all different areas very well, not as deep as the specialist, but you can't say because we have multiple things that we're focused on that our focus is not good enough,
right. I
right?
my youngest asked me today what I was doing and if it was for my job, and then she said, "You have so many jobs. Which one is it?" And I said, "Yeah, that's really the case." And over the holiday, when I had a little extra time and was thinking about renewal, and January 1st is not my spiritual new year, but it's my gearing up for that. So I was prepping, and I wrote down all the, in a in a very non-linear way. I wrote words and then circles. I've got them right here, and there's 10 different circles. Speaking
Mhm.
of 10 different things, I have 10 circles, that I am focused on right now. And I am very committed to each one. And some people can't do that. They would think that they need to do all those 10 in a day or a week. And that's not the case. It's it's seasonal. It's so many things. It's what's going on in the world. Um, and so we that's how we adapt.
We adapt,
We
right?
can
It's very
adapt
adaptable.
like that. But then if you but in a sterile situation, um our that's when we struggle more.
Hmm.
We need novelty, and we're always thinking about so many things that if you stifle us, then we don't function as well. Just as the same as I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and they said, "Well, shouldn't we? Shouldn't people just figure it out on their own and kind of pull themselves up by their bootstraps per se?" And
Good question, right?
yeah, but Ufta, if you had Ufta, I'm from Minnesota. Minnesota, the land of where
Ufta,
water reflects the sky, and we say Ufta.
ufta.
Um,
What does that mean? Ufta.
Ufta is a Scandinavian term. My mom's family is Norwegian and Swedish,
Hmm.
and my dad's family is African and Indigenous, and so I blend. That's where I
What a good blend. What a
many worlds.
fantastic blend. Are you watching the Olympics right now?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, always.
Norwegian is doing a very good job, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
The Olympics are fantastic. Although part of me worries that that's another system where we are putting people in harm's way for our own entertainment. And I'm kind of on the fence on that. I really love to see people in their element and doing their thing, but I wish that they wouldn't have to put their lives at risk, like the luge.
On the other hand, I love to see um, the human intelligence into flow where they, I said that yesterday. How remarkable is it? Of course, I watch ice skating, short track. I'm Dutch, we love that. And how interested is it that when you bring the best of the best all together in the world, that the differences are just a tenth of a second. Isn't that something? So everyone all over the world come together, they do the same sport, and we're almost at the same level all together. And there's just this tiny little difference. And it all depends on Wu Wei if you win or not. If is it effortless effort? Is it as beautiful as possible? Are you in a flow? And then you get these results or not. I love that.
And that happens
Yeah.
with intelligence testing too. That reminds me. And we try to put a linear lens on assessing intelligence, particularly in schools. But
Mhm.
even now, I mean, there's so many adults being assessed for a variety of things. And when we look at it in a linear way, um, it, it deflects, and it it just becomes an illusion of the system, uh, and it really doesn't help people. So the one thing that I'm really inspired by about the Olympics is that drive to come together, because it's not just one sport, it's so many people. And that's going back to the Optimus movement. We are a group of so many different types and characters, and that is what a team and what the universe needs to heal.
I'm the most proud. I keep saying that the most proud of what we do within the octopus movement is that we're a global human mycelium, blah blah blah. But we don't have any rules. There are no rules. I love that. And when I just began with the building up the community, as they say it, they were saying to me, Perry, you shouldn't be doing it like this. You need to set up the rules immediately, otherwise everything will go wrong. We proved otherwise.
Yep.
And this is the bridge to an important question I have for you. You're talking about brave systems. I love that word. Um, what is a brave system? How does it work? and why do we need them?
Well, we want people to be brave, and we talk about people being brave so much. But if you have a system that has a infrastructure that is built upon uh, noble paradigms and axioms, then you are able to support people.
Mhm.
So, and you're able to design for it. So rather than forcing rules or peace among people, you can design for it and collaborate and use information through different time and space in order to come to um, a truth with the capital T.
Would you say then that we are using a brave system within the octopus movement?
Oh, yes. That's exactly why I am here and continue to engage and participate and want others to join in, because the more that you see it work, the then you can take a chance and have that be in your own community.
Mhm.
So we we start small and move out. The more that we can get that information out there, that we can survive and even thrive in a non-linear way, in a non-linear system, and that has been happening for thousands of years. That's when other people who um, have just been going through the motions can say, "Oh, wait, I can use my creativity. I can do these other things," and it starts to snowball. And we all we all get the spark of hope.
And it would be so nice to have this within education, right? What do you think would be? People talk about education so much, in my opinion. I love the topic. I would love it if we could create something like this. This is how we think we should do it. Um,
I have an idea.
so many TED talks, so many brilliant people talking about it, yet nothing is happening. That's not fair to say it that way. It's a bit linear to say that. I don't mean it that way, but I mean it that way as well.
Yeah,
So you have an idea, Tascha. Tell me, what is the brave? How do we implement the brave system into education?
so here's my small thing that I would really like to see implemented. Well, two things. I think we should bring more of the elderly into our schools, and our children into our uh, elderly homes, because there's a repetition that's really good for the brain at the beginning of life and towards the end. And if we mix those, or match those, I should say, that really helps, because it's hard to be patient with people who are different from you. It takes energy.
Mhm.
It's worth it, but it takes more energy. So one thing is to combine more instruction with repetition, um, with people who uh, with dementia and Alzheimer's. I really think that there's a connection there, and I'd like someone to go for that. And the other thing is um, joining and categorizing people by sensory style and learning style rather than age. And because, as somebody who has worked with individualizing education plans, sometimes what the kid needs for their regulation, or what an adult needs, is to move around. I had a student who could learn spelling when she was bouncing on a trampoline, but if she was sitting in a desk, it just wasn't happening. Okay, so we could have her be able to bounce in the class and learn, great, but then we have a teacher who does not match with that, and they want to, but their brain and their central nervous system does not. There's a lot of neurological stuff. There's a lot of trauma that have has re, resulted in neurodiversity, and we need to honor that with adults and children. So if we could have a room where the adult was nonlinear and moved around a lot, and the students in there also moved around a lot. They were throwing balls back and forth, bouncing. It's wild. I've gone into those classrooms, and some kids thrive and the teachers thrive, and then some kids don't.
Yeah.
My I've got well, both of my kids would prefer to have really quiet, but some people don't function that way. So if we could have
I like that.
education in
Yeah.
a way that you learn best and that you teach best, that would take care
And
of a lot
bring
of problems.
elderly into the classroom with all their wisdom and all
Yep.
their knowledge and all their life experiences, which is so powerful.
They
And
can bring
then,
analogies, which is what we need, because in
right? Yeah.
K-12, we just have these abstract facts. You need to learn this. And an elderly person can say why. It's like,
And
well,
I keep hearing from kids that school can be boring. You know, it's not going fast enough. It is boring to take all these little steps. And can you imagine if you have a beautiful elderly who survived the Second World War, who has all these beautiful stories, that has so much wisdom, and bring them into the classroom. And I work together with pickmybrain.world. It's a platform that I use a lot for people to book me. And I know the founder, Maxime Cunningham, very well. And she does that. She uses her platform to bring in knowledge from outside of the educational system into education, which is a huge step. Um,
that is happening more and more. And in Minnesota, we have a lot of Indigenous teachings that are coming into the classroom. And that helps so much because we honor age and wisdom and ways to live that are not just within the digital world.
yeah. I 2 weeks ago I interviewed. I'm doing a series of kids that are not going to school in the Netherlands because they're highly gifted and on the spectrum maybe, and they don't fit in the system, so they're not at school, but they're brilliant. And I met this girl, and I said to her, I said, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "I just want to study. I just want to go to the university. I just want to study.
Healer
I will go to philosophy. I want to go to biology. I want to do so many things." And she's super smart. But you know one
is a
thing?
rope jumper.
And she's highly gifted, but there's a problem with the word and the activity of test. So as
Yep.
soon as there's a test involved, she freaks out.
Yep.
But you can tell immediately that she's highly intelligent. She loves studying, but don't test her, you know. And the system doesn't know what to do with that. So if you have a brave school or a brave system, you can say, okay, we skip the tests, or we call them something else. We do it in a different way, so you can go to the university. Her biggest dream was to get a Monopoly card where it says not go to jail directly, but go to the university directly. How cool is that?
I love that. Yeah, that's really powerful. That's really powerful. The
Why do
more
you think emotional intelligence is a survival skill? What is that for you?
well, somebody said a quote that really stuck with me. Skills are what you do when you're calm, and emotional intelligence is what you do when you're not okay.
Hmm.
And that's we are not okay right now, as in so many different ways. Uh, Emotional intelligence is how you get through. It's that behavior that you choose rather than just do automatically. And if we are if our central nervous system is perceiving threats, then our brain is going to prioritize survival, and we are going to behave in a way that is freeze, what is it,
Flight,
fight,
fight or leave. I don't know.
freeze,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
fawn.
Yeah.
And then but then we look at the behaviors and think that that's a character flaw or
Mm,
something of character rather than simply triggering what it's triggering trauma a lot of times. Um, so in emotional intelligence is that community, is being able to know what you're feeling and respond to that on purpose rather than have the world make those choices for you.
yeah, that's a good one. Emotional intelligence is a survival skill. Because if we all see that as survival skill and we all use emotional intelligence, that's a big difference, right? Because we overthink, we overjudge, we have an opinion immediately without letting it go, and is formed maybe from trauma and bad experiences. So emotional intelligence is a survival skill. I love that. Maybe we should call the episode of today "Emotional Intelligence is a Survival Skill." I said it often enough now,
I like
right?
it. I like it. I like it
So,
a lot.
so
Um,
Tasha, when if imagine this, I can ask you to whisper something in someone's ear, and what happens is that everybody on the planet will hear that sentence in their own language, all at the same time. What would you whisper?
you matter.
Hmm.
I think that's the thing, and that's what I. Everybody has something else that they whisper. My message to people is that you matter. I I was once told when I was a child that I was an angel, and I I relayed that to other people, and they said, no, that person has intellectual disability. They don't know what they're talking about. They're crazy. And I internalized that for so long. Uh, and the more I tell other people, the more I realize that it applies to me as well. That you matter to somebody, and that is really important. So even if you don't have an international platform, you matter to
You
the
matter.
universe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even when you're all by yourself reading a book at the fireplace, you matter.
you matter.
Yeah. Final question. I love that. You matter. Um, what are you curious about today in today's world?
Oh, you know, I am right now. My
I see you like, oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
So right now I'm working on um, a project to have mass healing of the central nervous system in a community fashion. So I go to I'm involved with drum and dance in my community, and the more that I realize and do research on how DNA can sync up with those that you are around, the more that I realize that um, there may be there may be weapons coming out there in the future, and the way that we can heal ourselves is through rhythm and and uh, community. So right now I'm really focused on different cultures, on how we use music to get the endorphins that we need and serotonin, and how we can use that to transmute negativity into beauty.
Voila. That's how it works in the brain of Tasha. Thank you so much for being here, Tasha, not just in this podcast, but as a founding member of the Octopus Movement. Of course, we're so happy you're with us.
So happy
If
to
you're listening and you feel a spark, please follow it. We do, right? And nonlinear thinking is not a strategy, it's a kind of love, and it grows where we share it. And I think, Tascha, you agree with that,
I
right?
do. I do.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure to talk with you. How fast does 30 minutes go?
Oh, so fast. Miigwech Pidamaya, thank you, gracias for all that we do as a team.
Thank you, Tascha. So good to have you here. Thank you. See you next time.